Welcome back. There's an old saying that the person who invents a better mousetrap will become a multimillionaire, and that's probably true, but Geoff Hayes has ignored mousetraps and gone to another trap which is perhaps closer to the heart of most people who use traps, and that's a crab trap. Now, there are some deficiencies with existing crab traps, but Geoff has been crabbing all his life in the Coomera Broadwater area, both for sand crabs or blue swimmers in New South Wales and muddies, and he's come up with a crab pot which is quite remarkable in its dynamics. It's one of those things that the very simplest solution to a complex problem is the one that works best. And the design of Geoff's crab pot involves a pot which is made using the traditional methods with wire hoops and mesh, etc., but which takes the shape of a volcano. In other words, it's a flattened cone with a hole in the top. And it's quite easy to see how it would work. You simply put the bait on the base of the wire and onto the bottom of the mesh, put it down, and the crabs climb up. They can enter from any of the 360-degree circumference of the pot. They fall in the hole at the top, and you've caught yourself a crab. Now, one of the things that inspired Geoff to do this was that he got sick and tired of leaving his crab pots out overnight and coming back and finding that they've disappeared. Somebody has stolen them along with their contents. So he decided he needed a crab pot which he could set and then check within the space of an hour or maybe a maximum of 2 hours. In other words, he would go crabbing for a couple or 3 hours and he would come home with the crabs he needed along with his pots. And with that in mind, he decided to make these pots as easy as possible for the crabs to enter. Now, there are a number of different models of the crab pots. There are large ones, there are small ones, there are ones designed to fold down, there are ones designed to actually be used like a discus and throw out into the river, so you can project them quite a ways out if you are confined to crabbing from the shore. And there's also one that has a flotation ring around the outside of the hole in the top, so that it lays flat when it's out of the water and is very easy to stow and to store. But once it hits the water, the flotation ring floats it up and away it goes. Now, we tested all of these on a small reach of the Coomera River, the Coomera Creek actually, north of the Gold Coast, on a couple of mornings. The first morning was very rainy, and I'm sure most people who read the newspapers will be aware that the period from about the beginning of November to the middle of January was extremely wet in Queensland, and it made life very difficult for me trying to shoot a leisure show in the rain. However, the crabbing thing was quite appropriate, and we set 8 crab pots. There are 4 allowed for each person in the boat in Queensland. We set 8 crab pots along this creek. We came back, we turned around and came back in Geoff's boat, and we picked them up. Now, we got 6 crabs, all undersized, which we let go, of course. We got 6 crabs after about 40 minutes of the first one being laid in the first run. And then we laid the pots again, and I said to him, look, we'll lay the last pot, we'll go up the river for 5 minutes and come back for 5 minutes and see what happens. And this is what happened. We got this huge female crab in that pot after it had been in the water for a maximum of 10 minutes. Now, that proves the fact that Geoff's philosophy of designing crab pots which will attract and capture crabs very, very quickly has certainly worked. He's distributing the pots. He's had orders for several thousand of them from a couple of fishing gear distributors. They're selling extremely well. One of the things about crabbing that Geoff told me, I mean, a lot of people think that if you put a bit of rotten meat or an old chicken frame or carcass or whatever, a fish frame into a trap, that it will attract crabs. And in fact, that's really not the case. Crabs prefer fresh food. And Geoff pretty well exclusively uses either mullet or fish frames from the local fish shop, wide into the bottom of the trap, and as you can see, they really are crab killers. They attract crabs like you wouldn't believe. Now we didn't find a keeper in any of the days we went out, and I regard that as very encouraging. The fact that we caught so many in such a short time, and that they were undersized, says a lot for the conservation of the resource. These crabs will grow up to be big ones and be keepers, and it means that the stocks are certainly not being significantly impacted by some fairly extensive crabbing operations, particularly in our part of the Gold Coast. Oh, and by the way, as I mentioned earlier, these pots are equally suitable for mud crabs or for sand crabs, blue swimmers. So they're a remarkable, they're simple, but they're a remarkable advancement on the existing crab pots. They're compact, they're easy to stow, they're easy to carry, they're very easy to empty, which is most important, particularly if you're not going to keep it. Crabs can be very aggressive, particularly mud crabs. You can lose the end of a finger if you're not careful. So if you can, rather than having to reach into the thing and grab it to release the crab or undo it out the bottom, you simply invert these pots and the crabs just fall out, as you can see here. So a remarkable new invention. More information's available if you call my number at the end of the show. I can tell you where they're distributed or where to get them. And congratulations to Jeff Hayes. He's done a remarkable job of coming up with a facility that will be of interest to just about anybody who goes fishing or crabbing. We'll be back after the break.